Hello, and welcome to the virtual tour of Tony Smith's Equinox. My name is Annie, and I'm a senior on the Loeb Committee. I am also serving as one of 3 co-chairs for the academic year. To give a little bit of context, the Student Advisory Committee at the Loeb acts as a liaison between the local Poughkeepsie community, the Vassar student body, and the museum administration. So typically we plan programming and conversation with the arts. And so this was really a project that was kind of outside our normal responsibilities that was entrusted to us by the museum director, Bart Thurber. And it was really cool that he just let us take the reins on it because normally we don't do installation work. And under normal circumstances, we would be doing kind of a larger celebratory event to introduce the sculpture, as you can see behind me at the bridge. But currently, due to COVID-19 regulations, the campus or bridge is not accessible to those outside of the Vassar community. But in the future, we hope that you'll be able to see it in person because this is now a permanent installation here. So now we're going to walk in.
Hello, I'm Jack Mahoney. I'm a junior on the committee, and I'm going to give you a brief introduction to Tony Smith and the sculpture Equinox. So Tony Smith was an American architect, sculptor, and educator, and he's most famous for the large sort of geometric sculptures that he made in the 1960s and the 1970s. And Equinox is part of that group. So basically what Smith would do is he'd take these very sort of simple geometric forms, and then he'd sort of expand them outwards into these very complex, very dynamic, three-dimensional forms that sort of were meant to sort of muddy the line between object and monument. And so the sculptures, like Equinox, are very interesting because you walk around them, they sort of change in their shape, and they're not exactly what you sort of expect them to be. And sort of in their very dark color and this very interesting play of sort of form and space, they were sort of meant to become these like voids that were meant to sort of stand in the environment and sort of create this very interesting sort of like sort of void within the environment that sort of questions it and reacts with it. And that sort of touches on some Smith's spiritual occupations, because in this play of sort of form and space, it sort of speaks to this interesting play of sort of being and non-being, which sort of touches on Smith's interest in Zen Buddhism. And Smith was also very interested in sort of the ancient monuments and nature. You can see this in sort of the title of the sculpture Equinox, which of course references the astronomical phenomena when sort of the day is equal to the night, and also when the sort of the plane of the equator of the Earth passes through the center of the sun. You can kind of almost see that represented in the form of the sculpture itself, and sort of its very symmetric form, and also this interesting perpendicular axis, which is sort of like how the sort of, if you were to draw a line from the center of the sun, it would pass through at a perpendicular angle through the axis of the Earth. So in this way, Equinox not only like sort of references a natural phenomenon, it sort of represents it in a way that's very similar to ancient monuments like Stonehenge, which Smith was very interested in because he sort of wanted to create monuments that, like these ancient monuments, sort of spoke to a cultural zeitgeist. And so placed here in this sort of very beautiful architectural space with this beautiful natural space right outside the window, it really allows this sort of interesting sculpture to interact in a very dynamic way, and allows you to sort of look at it and question it and see how it sort of interacts with its surroundings.
I'm Emma, also a junior on the committee, and I'm going to talk to you about how we chose the bridge building as a place for this wonderful sculpture. So initially, based on the locations of other Tony Smith sculptures, we decided first that we wanted to choose between indoors and outdoors as a location for the statue sculpture. So we first considered outdoor spaces, for which we conferred with conservator Abigail Mack, who told us that if it was to be placed outside, we would have to treat it, which we decided was not necessarily the best idea because we wanted to keep it as it is now. But there are some Tony Smith sculptures that are inside, so we wanted to place it somewhere inside on campus in a place where students could see it, as well as other members of our community. Some options were the library and College Center and the Bridge Building, which is where we are now. We ultimately decided on the Bridge Building because, as the name implies, it literally is a bridge, and bridges, in this case, the gap between the arts and the sciences. And we thought that placing this here would be a way for it to be interacted with by people who aren't only going to the museum or aren't only expecting to look at art. So here it is in this intermediate space where you can walk past and see it. And it's also really complemented nicely by the natural background, which is a nice sort of balance between the outdoor location that we had initially planned or hoped for and the indoor location. Now Jordana will talk about why we placed it in the bridge.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jordana, I'm a sophomore on the committee, and I'm going to talk about the different locations that we considered within the bridge building. So, if you follow me, we can start over here, which was one of the first locations we considered. There were three main ones. So we built a life-size, spray-painted cardboard model of Equinox, and we placed it in different locations around the bridge. And our first location that we tried was right here, because we were interested in seeing how the architecture of the sculpture played against the architecture of the bridge building. But we realized that they clashed with this large X, and the sculpture looked really small under this big structure. So then we moved over here, and we were thinking about the traffic flow in the bridge, and we talked to Professor Tobias Armborst from the Urban Studies Department, and we thought there was a gap in the traffic flow right around this location. And so we thought that this would be a really great place to put it, but we talked to facilities, and it kind of impedes in the way, and it would be difficult to clean, and we also thought that people might use the structure as a table or a chair, and we obviously don't want that because it's a piece of art. So finally, we settled on this location over here. Originally, this piano was in this location, but thanks to the music department, we moved it over here, and actually, the acoustics are better in this location, so it's perfect for everyone. And now, the sculpture is with the natural surroundings, and you can see it from the inside and the outside. And so we settled on this location, and it looks great here. Now I'll pass it to Annie.
Hello again. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in to our virtual tour of Tony Smith's Equinox today. I wanted to let everyone know about part 2 of this series on Thursday, November 12th at 8 p.m. EST. It'll be on Zoom with a panel of some very special guests. And finally, I'd like to do some special thanks to various people who just really helped us on this project. So everyone, the staff at the Loeb Arts Center, Director Bart Thurber, Mary Kay, our Deputy Director and Curator, and our Supervisor Francine Brown, as well as Abigail Mack, Tobias Armborst, Karen Hines, Teresa Quinn, Michelle Ransom, Eduardo Nevega, Christine Howlett, Joe Tansky, and finally, and last but not least, our class of 2020 alums who we miss very much, Carly Andreessen, Griffin Payan, and Ruby Mayer. We hope to see you on the 12th, and thank you for tuning in today.